You should arrange a debate, have it on this channel, and have them super
They
chat the
will
winner.
not accept. I have invited, I have taunted, I have made several
Wow.
streams explicitly
Good
taunting
time.
Jay Dyer. I've addressed Tag. And on Sarah's the other day, when I started getting into it, I was up there for all of 10 minutes before somebody paid $120 to have me kicked off the whole night.
Right.
So
I was just getting warmed up on that shit too. That was good. That was a good approach. The sandwich, the holy sandwich of creation, was the most visceral exhibition of flaunting I've seen in a minute.
it might be worth reviewing, actually. There's an argument that the ortho bros like to make. It's called TAG, the Transcendental Argument for God, and they believe that this is a way to prove God's existence. And the argument goes like this. We make claim. Well, you know what? He's about to explain it here, so I'll just let him go. But it's a faulty argument, and I end up using.
So before you play that, are you gonna say then you're a hard atheist? I didn't know this.
I consider myself agnostic. Because
okay.
I'm not a materialist. Like I just am not that sort of an atheist. I do, however, I'm basically not really open to many of the major religions.
Look how
no, I
excited
get that.
Sarah is.
I get that actually. Hard.
Yeah.
Just good to know agnostic versus atheist. That's
Yeah.
big. It's a big difference.
He's not a butthurt atheist. He's just an agnostic.
Right.
No, that's fine.
In the analogy, we're saying, okay, you're saying there's a thing called wall. What is a wall, and what makes walls possible?
I would say, is there any other explanation besides what we both call that the wall, this wood with a handle and a door, and it opens up, and there's something behind it?
The question keeps getting pushed back. All it is, we can just keep on ontology of predicating thing, right? Kneel, wall, phone, YouTube, these different things that have existence. Whatever's being predicated, we're taking the question back a step and saying a worldview that can account for these things is necessary to appeal to them. And if you don't have the ability to account for something that you're appealing to, then you can't appeal to that thing as some kind of standard. And if you forego giving an account for it, well, we're in the position I mentioned before, if you're going to have to accept relativism.
So did you all catch that nonsense? Basically, the argument is you claim to know, because the claim that was being made is that God, and actually they say specifically the Christian God, the Christian Trinity God, is required for knowledge to exist at all. And the reason that he just used to support that is, well, you claim to know some things, right? Like a door is a door. But how do you know anything? Which is
bullshit,
if you're
word salads.
Right. It says if you can't tell us how, if you can't build the car, you don't know how to drive.
And Chase, if you don't mind, I don't mean to.
No, I don't necessarily agree with that, because we can have things that are objectively true, and we can agree on these things that are objectively true, like snow is white, for example. I don't necessarily have to account for that. I don't have to appeal to anything to account for that. We just know snow is white. We both agree on that.
But what's in question is the thing called snow and it being objectively true. That's what's
also
in question.
Whiteness. Also
whiteness, snow, right? All these
That's
things.
fine. I get why you're asking that, but why would Christianity, or any worldview for that matter, be the only way to account for those things?
Yeah,
if I may interject, Chase, there was something that he said that really.
And I want to throw a flag on that fucking play real quick. That's a slick one, but it's, if you've argued with Ortho Bros as much as I have, it's a very common recurrence where now Gnostic Conform is asking him the obvious question. Okay, whatever. Why is the Christian God, what is required for knowledge? Like, what specifically about him? And then this schoolboy, who's another Ortho Bro, it runs interference. Like, well, actually, let me intervene here and just derail that question because we can't answer it.
Christianity, or any worldview for that matter, be the only way to account for those things?
Yeah,
if I may interject, Chase, there was something that he said that really perked up like my ears, and it came down to, like, I know that you said that you're not a philosopher, right, Neil?
Right.
Have you
from it.
ever heard of Munchausen's trilemma
No,
or Agrippa's trilemma? It's sometimes known as.
I've heard of these things. I probably couldn't explain it right now. No.
So
But yeah, you
it's
can go ahead.
it's a critique that about epistemology that essentially all worldviews boil down to one of three things: either
We lost it.
or
Did he
circular.
cut
You cut out.
Top, my phone's glitching out. I'll be right back, guys.
Sure, take
Just
your time.
filibuster.
Okay, we just have truth, and the line I was just going down is just okay. We just have truth, and objective truth is what you're saying. That's what we're bringing into question, is how you can actually justify that claim in general.
Well,
And you're saying I don't have to.
Well, I would appeal to our inductive reasoning and experience, and there's like certain things like knowing snow is white. I don't necessarily think it
sexy.
matters how we.
The frat boy douchebag way that we rolled up in there.
I love that, and I just said sexy, but just because you guys are my bros.
The
Inductive
boys.
reasoning and experience, and there's like certain things like knowing snow is white. I don't necessarily think it matters how we account for that. It's just a simple snow is white.
Okay,
But
but we can just do the same thing now and just say I don't need to account for my truth claims. It's just simple God exists. You see how if you push back against that, that's being totally inconsistent.
It's a mental shortcut.
Yeah, but snow is white. We both can see snow. We both can touch snow. It's right there. God exists is more of like what God? Christian God,
okay.
Buddhist God.
Yeah, but
There's
here's the
way
thing.
more. There's
But
way
your
more facts in
definition
there.
of snow, you got to define snow. What are you defining snow with?
Snow exists with or without the definition. The definition is a function of
Not
language.
really, because
Definition is a
technically the word
function of
snow
let me finish.
in
Let
itself
me finish.
requires a
Hold
definition.
on.
James, calm your tits down. The definition
presuming-
is a function of language, which is a human construct.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. And it's
But the
objectively true no
perception
matter
of
what I
white
say
is
about it.
also defined by the fact that you have eyes that perceive a very particular spectrum of light, right? So
But it's
the
still
thing you
objectively true no matter
share
what
in
we
the
say about it.
yeah, true. It's objectively true because of what we are. The same way his statement is only objectively true amongst Christians.
Okay, but this is you're just claiming this is just objectively true. We're asking you to account for that. And you're saying we don't have to.
No, you're saying you
Snow-
don't have
snow
to.
is
We're
white,
saying that we
regardless-
don't have. We
No,
don't have an
I'm
account
saying
for it.
you have
You're
to.
saying God is here, and God means that we don't have to. Right? That's the
No,
end of
that's
your inquiry.
literally not what I'm saying. I'm saying
not
we
what
need to actually account for our truth claims, and you're saying we do not have to. We just have objective truth.
There are certain things that we know are true through. So I didn't articulate this thought process clearly. What I'm trying to say is that they are using God to not have to justify their claims, right? Because God, the existence of God is not obvious for sure, but they just have it defined as such a thing that like, well, this is the answer.
Yeah, it's called God of the Gaps, by the way.
Okay, thank you. And that's what I get into in a minute with the sandwich experience, right? The red book.
And what are
for
those?
instance.
And how do you know that those are true?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about, but not everything we know for sure is true. Snow is white is objectively true no matter what we say about it.
How do you know that?
No, it's not.
Experience.
Because we have a color spectrum and we decide with our language, English language, the color white describes this right here. That's the color white. So
You're
snow
still predicating
also has the same
thing,
color.
but you're still predicating a thing, right? Whatever details and attributes you want to point out of the thing, you're still saying there's a thing outside of me that exists. That's a huge metaphysical universal claim, and you're saying I don't need to account for it. And then you're asking us,
Can I
and we
cut
can give an
false,
account. I'm just trying to
please?
point out that you just
I hate this line of argument. It is so nonsensical and immaterial. The issue,
Right?
basically, he's trying to utilize syntax to get around the question of fucking existence.
Right?
Oh, I know. It's and this is why I'm getting increasingly agitated with them. The more I encounter this just blatant dishonesty.
I mean,
And
And they're trying to establish
tells us enough,
objective
guys.
by
Come on.
giving subjective examples. It's just shitty.
So I think one line of approach might be to point out that, like, yes, you can say snow is white, but yes, you can also say water that is frozen in the air will take on a certain crystalline structure and reflect sunlight at a wavelength that
You're
No,
overthinking it, though.
not
You're
for
overthinking it.
Well, no,
fractal
let me finish. I can
now.
let's go here. Wittgenstein would say that the way we say snow is white has to do with words containing the meaning based on how we use them. So,
We define it.
Yeah, right. So, in reality, like this, God never told us what these words mean. We came up with words for the thing that we were observing.
Correct.
It's that simple. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. But they have to make it more complicated to factor in God to something. But really, like if you think about it, what they're admitting is that we can't know anything so long as we believe this heavily in God. Like it really is just God with the gaps.
What they're really doing is appealing to solipsism and reversing the order of language and reality. Because they're trying to treat the language of reality as if it precedes the reality itself. That to me seems almost solipsistic, but let's not get too far off.
You might
get to grant yourself things that you don't grant others.
Yeah, but it's not the same. Snow is we both agree snow exists in our world. We don't know, even if I grant that God exists, we don't know what this God is, or if it's the Christian God, or if it's the Muslim God. We don't know that. So
That's arbitrary.
It's a way bigger step to just
It's called
grant
a
God
postulate.
exists.
It's a postulate. It's called a postulate, sir. It's just a postulate.
Okay.
Some people have beliefs, whether they are a positive or negative assertion, they cannot be proven. That's what it's called.
Well,
It's a
hold on.
postulate.
If you don't mind, really, I don't mean to cut in, but I do.
I
Have
just wanted to get something in there. It's called the postulate, and that is true. You can look up the definition of the word postulate. Please do.
All right. So really quick though, I just have to add. I hope you know that the tag is not just saying the formula, right? I mean, we're epistemic holists, right? Orthodox Christianity, we have this position that we hold, gives a positive account. It's the whole entire worldview and paradigm that accounts for all these things. So we're not just saying necessary precondition, therefore God. That's not all at all we're just saying. There is a positive account, and that's something that was mentioned earlier, but was kind of let off.
And that's the whole worldview. But before we get to that, it needs to be shown that they can just grant themselves things without justifying it. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Is
They're
just
not
showing
going to
you
be
just
able to show you anything. You might as well just get into an actual subject.
Well,
because
let him.
wait, you're not going to justify. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. You're not going to
stand by.
justify any claim.
Sir, no matter which side you're on one side or the other, and it's called a postulate. You cannot prove it. It's called faith. So you have a faith side, and
How can you prove that you can't prove it? Can you justify that claim?
Yeah, it's because of this sandwich. That's how.
No.
How does sandwich account for that?
Sir,
Same way Jesus
That's your
does.
argument?
Same way the Trinity does. What do you mean? How does a sandwich does everything?
You see how irate they became the second they made the connection between sandwich and creation?
Is sandwich your God, Flo? Be honest.
Hold on. Back it up and watch the paddle's facial expressions after you say sandwich, ta-da, and then move on eating your fucking sandwich.
All right,
faith. So you have a faith side, and
how can you prove that you can't prove it? Can you justify that claim?
Yeah, it's because of this sandwich. That's how.
No.
How does sandwich account for that?
Same way Jesus
That's your
does.
argument?
Same way the Trinity does. What do you mean? How does a sandwich does everything?
Come on now.
Hold on.
He got the hand in the hair thing.
Yeah, this dude next to you started twitching a little bit.
Oh boy, looks like he's about to face the firing squad.
Yeah, the Mr. Dinklage or whatever, Abe Dinkson, whatever. He's I think he full on salutes you on that. And I'm utterly astounded that you got there that quick with that little effort. Watch my face as I observe what's happening here. You're going to see a slow dawning of realization that you just outmaneuvered everyone on the panel with a sandwich.
It was a good sandwich, by the way. Shout out to Lady Flo.
Allow me to try to bring some assembly. Let's try to go one at a time. At least try. go ahead. Back to Chase. I think you were kicking off before I interrupted.
Yeah. So all I'm pointing out and why they're getting angry is because they are not being allowed to just grant themselves objective truth claims without justifying them. And now they're just shouting sandwich.
The
and just
exact
saying,
same way that you are. I have as much evidence that Sandwich created the universe as you do that Jesus did. Actually, probably more, because Sandwich I can prove tangibly exists. You can't do the same for the Trinity.
So you only believe in things that physically exist?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, but you can only prove things that exist that are physical, right?
Can prove tangibly exists. You can't do the same for the Trinity.
So you only believe in things that physically exist?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, but you can only prove things exist that are physical, right?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, well, then how do you prove non-physical things?
You're moving the goalpost because you don't want to acknowledge the fact that my sandwich has more viability than your Trinity. Your Trinity doesn't even make it conceptually.
Can you make a positive account on how a sandwich grants you the possibility of knowledge?
Thank you.
Sure, it created everything.
Continue.
Without the Trinity, or without the Trinity sandwich, I can't have knowledge, and I have knowledge. You have knowledge, so obviously, sandwich created things.
So you're complete. You guys, and Neil, this is actually where I was kind of getting into it before my phone was having problems. You do misrepresent the tag argument. It's not an argument that's just saying like it's not a tautology. It's saying God is the necessary precondition for knowledge. Knowledge, therefore, God. Right. So the argument is that God is the necessary precondition. Now, to substantiate that claim is actually a disjunctive. So I know that you're not a philosopher, but
what do you mean by that?
So a disjunctive would be a proposition that is an either or statement, essentially. So the possibility of knowledge is either theonomous or not theonomous, meaning from God, and it is not theonomous because there is no autonomous worldview that can actually account for the possibility of knowledge.
You would have to ask God for that to be the case, sir.
This is a false binary.
No, well, and it's not a false binary.
How's that a false dichotomy?
Yeah, and there's
because you're forcing something that we don't know the answer to into an either or when we don't know if these are the two options available.
Well, you're claiming we don't know the answer. We have a different position than you. So you're saying, oh, don't know, you don't believe something. Well, let me finish. You don't.
I don't see how he doesn't see that we have the same position, just different gods.
He does. He just don't want to admit it. He sees the fact that you have completely outmaneuvered him, and he's trying his best to stand on a square that is now also on your sandwich.
Maybe you should let him try your sandwich, and then you'll be convinced.
I'm trying. So far, David Wayne's the only one who's taken the plunge into my sandwich. Shout out to David Wayne. Congratulations on being saved. Although Mike 23, even though he hasn't properly been baptized, you know what? In my church, we have baptism via financial support. So, Mike doesn't have anything to worry about.
You have indulgences. You already covered that.
Oh, yes.
If I might be mistaken, but I think that person who was complaining about the disjunctive was actually directing that at the tag people. And he was. Oh, okay. Well, you kind of threw him off.
No, well, I didn't ask the response question.
You're right that it does narrow it down, but like for tag people, they're not really good at calling that out. So it was a good strategy on his part, and you kind of took the steam out of that.
Yeah. Well, if I did that, then I apologize to whoever's question that was. I wasn't following the logic, but I didn't know what a disjunctive was.
You're going to need to actually demonstrate that claim, and we can start off even more simply. Either the universe is intentional or it's not intentional. Is the universe intentional, powdered, dusty, or is it not intentional?
I must be confused about what you're trying to communicate me. Could you lead the way and demonstrate?
Do you understand the question? Can you repeat the question?
I want you to lead by example and show me how.
Can you repeat the question I answered?
I'm asking you to teach it better.
Okay, great. Is the universe intentional or is it not intentional? This is a true dichotomy. It's an either or, and one of them will immediately collapse and destroy the possibility of knowledge. So in your worldview, is the universe intentional or is it not intentional?
He's right there.
You don't know your own worldview?
I don't know if it's intentional or not. I have no idea. I didn't create everything.
Okay, cool. So you do not hold the belief that the universe is intentional, correct?
Let's say it may be intentional. What I hold the belief is that I don't.
You don't know what you believe.
Hold on. Let me finish. I don't hold the knowledge of how the universe was created. Do you hold the knowledge?
God created the universe. I don't know every single mechanic, but again, you're not answering. 1 second, Dr. Luke.
Sure.
You're literally saying No, the universe is not intentional. I don't hold that belief. That means everything in the universe is
No,
accidental.
I didn't say that.
And that.
You
So
want me
you
to
do
say
believe
that.
the universe is intentional.
What I said is that I do not know the answer to that question because
So then how
I
are you
didn't
gonna
create
cool.
the,
So,
I didn't
so
create the
in your
universe and I
worldview,
wasn't
that,
there.
you know what that means? Do you know what that means? Because it's an either or and it's an actual dichotomy. That means in your worldview, I don't know the answer. That means it's not intentional.
The question is deceptive in and of itself, right? And obviously, none of us have the answer to that question. So when he says pick one of these things, the honest answer is I don't know.
So what he's getting wrong, by the way, is that you not knowing doesn't hold any truth value. It doesn't inform us on whether or not the universe was intentional or not. But you don't have to hold that belief. That's what he's getting wrong.
Right. Well, he's trying to force me to. It's like choose lie A or choose lie B. Right. Well,
yeah.
Neither. Not what that means. As much
Oh,
as
is it
you want it to
intentional?
mean that.
Is it
What
intentional?
I'm saying is you're asking for information I don't have.
Okay, yeah. So you don't know if the universe is intentional, correct?
Oh my fucking God.
Oh, whoa.
Correct.
Can you
I'm
you
sorry.
focus?
I'm sorry. I've been listening to this
Well,
for like the last 15 minutes. So I just want to say
Bye,
hold
one
on
thing to
just a
this.
second. Let me do some logistics and then I'll hand it back to you, Dr. Luke.
Sure
and
thing.
can
You a
add
whole
in.
ass bitch, Sweater.
Sweater has dropped a full 100, and
Wow.
here we know 100 is a full boot for the
Someone's
evening.
getting scared that his Jesus is going down. Bye, Sweater.
So any of you Flow
eat
State
your
Powder
sandwich.
Dusty fans,
breathing
if
it.
you if you would like to keep Flow on, you have to match it. So I'm going to put Flow backstage for a couple minutes. If somebody chooses to match to bring him back up, we will gladly keep him here. Otherwise, Flow will be booted for the entire evening. So I'll give you a few minutes to do so. And then
wow.
And then allow.
From that point on, it takes me an hour to get in 3 questions.
I know. I needed you to get up there and just rage the fuck out and avenge my death. And
What do we need to do?
Oh, nothing anymore. This was from a couple nights ago. That Sweater. So I did a little poking. Sweater had never commented on any of Sarah's videos ever until booting me. I'm a mod there.
By the way, Flo, let me jump in real quick. So he did a really shitty job, but
You couldn't let me finish my fucking point before you start
go
taking
ahead.
up the argument. Hold the fuck on. Since then, so I think Sweater is somebody else's alt account. That said, I'm not positive. Sweater did leave a comment on one of my videos, asking if I was upset that he dropped me. And I just want to clarify, like, even though I'm frustrated in the moment, as I should be, that I can't complete the argument, no part of me is mad at Sweater, whoever it is. In fact, I appreciate audience members that support channels. So even if it wasn't directly supporting me, I think it indirectly supports the space. So absolutely, thank you, Sweater, for kicking me. No anger here at all. Now go ahead.
Money. Anyways,
Sandwich forgives Sweater.
The dude did a piss poor job of pointing out a really basic, simple explanation. He was trying to establish that you start with a true, not true type statement, but then he left open your well, maybe what if both statements are false type scenario. And I
Right.
think he was trying to say that that's why you set up as either X is true or X is not true, and that those you have to pick one of those statements.
But trying to force me to pick, I agree that's what he's trying to do. But just trying to tell me I have to pick one of these things, that'd be like asking you, is blue crunchy or creamy?
Right, but he left it open, making it sound like he was saying that you have a choice between X or Y. Like, is X or Y true? That's where you can deny and say, well, maybe both are false. And so that's okay to start that way. What he was trying to say, and he was doing a shitty job of doing it, was that when you start with the either X is true or the other choice is X is not true, then you have to pick one of those truth statements. So that's fine, but he took way too long to get to that. That's why people lose attention.
I understand that what he's saying, that the universe is probably either one of these things, right? That makes sense. You're right. My objection was that there could be a third, it could be semi-intentional. We all do semi-intentional things all the time. But if I just grant him that it was intentional or not, the question is still dishonest, because he knows, he can correctly infer that I'm not in a position to know the answer to that.
Right. And you clearly stated your agnostic position that you don't know which one is true or not true.
Right.
But he's saying you have to start there. So you have to either prove one true or prove one false. Either way,
why would you have one. I disagree. Like, we can't actually know that. That's why religion is a faith, right?
That's what I meant when I told him that he would have to personally ask God for that to be the case.
Right, but you can't escape the base logic of either X is true or X is false. One of those statements is true.
No, I can't escape the logic, because, for instance,
no, you can't, because whichever one you prove,
was it intentional for me to get kicked off the panel that night?
I don't know.
Well, I went in loudly attacking orthobro points in front of a bunch of orthobros. Did I pay the money to get? Did I do it myself? No. Was there a good likelihood I knew I would get kicked off? Yes. So that is a perfect example of something that is semi-intentional.
Okay. But one of the choices.
Hold on. Did you just say "oops, the universe"?
No, he said sandwich, therefore universe.
Okay, I'll accept sandwich, therefore universe. But pretty much something happened and the universe happened, and oops, now there's a universe. So either there is a God or there isn't a God, but the creation of the universe is immaterial to the question.
So there is logical structure to these arguments. Unfortunately, they get so core to just base logic that they don't really establish anything useful. Is the problem?
There's logical right. It's what they're trying to do is they're trying to abstract away from reality enough with philosophy and logic to set up a logical checkmate. But having to be that derivative in your mental masturbation to then ultimately what you're trying to do is prove something's truth in existence, right? In reality.
Allow me to clean up the conversation and
All right,
speed
go
it
ahead.
up. So he should have said either sandwich is God or sandwich is not God. One of those statements is true. Now,
if God is in all of us and sandwich is one of us, then it could be God in that sense, but not exclusively God.
That's
right?
different than the choice of saying either Buddha is God or Zeus is God. Now, you see how one of them doesn't necessarily cancel out the other one? You're just given a choice of which one you think is true.
Well, no, he's trying to force a binary choice onto the conversation where the answer can be a nuance. You don't have to have yes or no, hot or cold, up or down. It's shades of gray.
But that's the core step. You have to start somewhere with knowledge. Either there is no truth or there is some truth. If there's no truth, that's the chaos. The up is down, left is right. Doesn't matter. Words have no meaning. Blah blah blah. If there is truth or existence or anything like that, then the first statement is either X is true or X is not true, and then you have to fill in what you're determining in that truth claim. X can be the existence of light or the existence of air. It doesn't matter, but you have to prove it one step at a time. I think they were jumping ahead and assuming you were okay with that base level axiom, and now inferring that, well, our understanding of knowledge requires a personal God or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And that's where Flo is like, no, I don't know, and maybe both choices are false. But he missed the initial core axiom of either X
but
is
the
true
core
or
act that's
X
what
is
the
false.
very first thing I said is that's a false dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy.
It's not the fact that either X is true or X is false is not a false dichotomy. That's where all knowledge comes from.
Let me interrupt spinning the wheel with you again. We could do this all night. Thank you, D3.